Thank you. Hi, Sunanda. Hi, John. I see you're there today. Good. And that means you can hear me. Okay. See, Alexis is here. Well, this evening we'll be reading about Swami Vijnanananda, who was not the first president, but the last of the direct disciples that was president of the order, I believe. He also was instrumental in designing Bellarmont. He was an architect. And this is the last one of the Swamis that we'll be reading about in the book, God Lived with Them. After Swami Vijnanananda, we're going to do Swami Chetanananda, who was the first direct disciple in the San Francisco temple and built the old temple, the first Hindu temple in the United States, and the only one of the direct disciples who actually died in the United States. We'll have a great big book about his life. But this evening we're on page 589 in God Lived with Them, Swami Vijnanananda, also Swami Swahananda's guru. Okay. Sri Ramakrishna was a spiritual phenomenon, and his spirituality manifested in his spiritual longing and samadhi, in his singing and dancing, in his conversations and stories, in his action and behavior, and even in his fun and frivolities. Many people consider Ramakrishna to be an avatar or a great religious teacher, but it is also interesting to observe his personal life behind the public gaze. Needless to say, people would be surprised if they saw Ramakrishna wrestling with a young man in his room at the Dakshineshwar temple. But it was not unusual for the disciples of Ramakrishna to have an ordinary situation turn into an extraordinary experience through the influence of the Master. It is amazing to see how the Master transmitted spiritual power to his disciples, even in a playful way. Swami Vijnanananda vividly narrated one of his dramatic and unconventional encounters with Ramakrishna. I felt Sri Ramakrishna's room vibrating with a tangible atmosphere of peace, and the devotees present seemed to be listening in blissful absorption to his words, to the words that poured from the Master's lips. I don't recall what he said, but I experienced tremendous joy within. I sat there for a long time, my whole attention concentrated on Sri Ramakrishna. He did not say anything to me, nor did I ask him anything. Then, one by one, his devotees took their leave, and suddenly I found myself alone with him. The Master was looking at me intently. I thought it was time for me to depart, so I prostrated before him. As I stood up to go, he asked, "Can you wrestle? Come, let me see how well you wrestle." With these words, he stood up, ready to grapple with me. I was surprised at this challenge. I thought to myself, what kind of a holy man is this? But I replied, "Yes, of course I can wrestle." Sri Ramakrishna came closer, smiling. He caught hold of my arms and began to shove me. But I was strong, muscular young man, and I pushed him back to the wall. He was still smiling and holding me with a strong grip. Gradually, I felt a sort of electric current coming out of his hands and entering into me. That touch made me completely helpless. I lost all my physical strength. I went into ecstasy, and the hair on my body stood on end. Releasing me, the master said with a smile, "Well, you're the winner." With these words, he sat down on his cot again. I was speechless. The fact that the master had not won physically, but his spiritual power had completely subdued me. Some time passed. Then the master got up from his seat. Patting me gently on the back, he said, "Come here often. It is not enough to come once." Then he offered me some sweets as prasad, and I returned to Calcutta. For days, the spell of that intoxicating joy lingered, and I realized that he had transmitted spiritual power to me. This was his first meeting. Ramakrishna later said of Swami Vijnanananda, he wrestled with Krishna in his previous incarnation. He is not an ordinary person. Swami Vijnanananda's pre-monastic name was Hari Prasanna Chattopadhyaya. He was born on Friday, 30 October in 1868 in Etawah, Uttar Pradesh, where his father, Taraknath Chattopadhyaya, worked in the commissariat of the British government. Hari Prasanna was the eldest of six children, 2 boys and 4 girls. As Taraknath's job transferred him to different places, the children lived with their mother, Nakaleshwari Devi, at Varanasi, where Hari Prasanna began his primary education. In 1879, his mother moved with her children to the ancestral home in Bulgaria near Dakshineshwar. Hari Prasanna entered the Hari School in Calcutta, and in 1882 passed his entrance examination. From his childhood, Hari Prasanna had a religious temperament and a tremendous passion for truth. Once, when he was about 14, his mother falsely accused him of something and scolded him. He protested vehemently, and when he failed to convince his mother of his innocence, he tore off his sacred thread and cried out, "If I tell a lie, I am not a Brahmin." Nakaleshwari Devi was taken aback and became afraid that some misfortune might befall the family. Strangely enough, the very next day, a cable from Quetta, Afghanistan, brought the news of his father's death. His mother, grief-stricken, said to Hari Prasanna, "See the result of your curse?" Very little is known about his early life. However, Hari Prasanna once narrated the following incident from his boyhood. One day, he heard a gunshot in the bamboo grove behind his house in Bulgaria. He rushed to the grove and found a wounded monkey lying on the ground. He distinctly heard the monkey chant twice, "Rama, Rama," and then with folded hands, it died. Hari Prasanna believed that monkeys are the devotees of Ramchandra and that they die chanting Lord Rama's name. Next, any questions there? Meetings with Sri Ramakrishna. Hari Prasanna was only 7 years old when he first saw Sri Ramakrishna, so that was not his first meeting. I was mistaken. He later recalled, "I first saw Sri Ramakrishna in 1875 at Bulgaria in the garden house of Jai Gopal Sen. The master had come in to visit Keshab Sen in that retreat house. I was then a little boy I was playing with my friends, and then just by chance I saw the master there. At that time, the paths of the garden house were covered with red brick dust. Many people came. The master was seated in a room, After seeing him, I returned to my home nearby. The second time Hari Prasanna saw him, Sri Ramakrishna was immersed in samadhi at Dewan Govinda Mukhopadhyay's house in Bulgaria. He later described that scene. A young man, Narendra, was singing a devotional song, Jai Jai Dayamaya Jai Dayamaya, victory to the compassionate Lord, victory to the compassionate Lord. Sri Ramakrishna was standing in the center of a group, and another young man, Babaram, was holding him so that he would not fall. The master was completely oblivious to the surroundings. He wore a white cloth, his face shone with a heavenly luster, and a smile played on his lips. His teeth were visible, and there was such a joyful expression on his face that it seemed as if it would crack, like a cracked melon. His eyes seemed to be gazing at something, and he appeared to be immersed in bliss, in the ocean of bliss. Another thing struck me, has remained imprinted on my memory forever. From the base of the master's spine right up to his head, the whole column had become inflated like a thick rope, and the energy that rose upward towards the brain seemed to be spreading its hood and swaying its head like a snake, dancing in joy. This would be a very visual impression of the Kundalini. In 1883, Hari Prasanna entered St. Xavier's College in Calcutta, and Sharat Chakravarti, later Swami Sardananda, and Ramananda Chattopadhyaya, later the editor of Parvasi, were his classmates. On 26 November 1883, he and Sharat went by boat to see Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar with another classmate, Bharata Paul. Arriving in the afternoon, they saw the master briefly as he was about to leave for Mani Mallik's house in Calcutta. However, the master invited them to come to Mani Mallik's too, so they returned to Calcutta by boat. Hari Prasanna attended the festival at Mani Mallik's and returned home late that evening. He later described what had happened. My mother scolded me. When she heard that I had gone to see Sri Ramakrishna, she said, "My goodness, you went to that crazy Brahmin? He has deranged the brains of 350 young men." It was indeed mental derangement. Even now my brain is hot. I did not pay any attention to my mother's scoldings. During his college days, Hari Prasanna visited Sri Ramakrishna several times at Dakshineshwar Temple Garden. Excuse me. He later related those wonderful reminiscences to some devotees. On Krishna's birthday, 18 August 1884, Hari Prasanna went to see the master at Dakshineshwar. That evening, he decided to spend the night there. He recalled his experience. Sometime later, the master gave me some luchis, fried bread, and sweets, which were the Divine Mother's prasad. Sri Ramakrishna made a bed for me and set up the mosquito curtain. I fell asleep as soon as I lay down. At midnight, I woke up and found the master walking around my bed saying, "Mother, Mother." I was dumbfounded and could not understand what was going on. That night, Sri Ramakrishna blessed me. The master's disciples felt an irresistible attraction to their guru. They learned more by observing his exemplary life and listening to his talks than from books. Hari Prasanna described another night's stay with the master. One evening I went to Dakshineshwar and expressed to the master my desire to stay overnight. He gladly gave his consent. There was no suitable eating arrangement at night in Dakshineshwar. Every night, some prasad from the Divine Mother would be sent to the master for his supper, and from that he would eat a little and distribute the remainder among those who had stayed with him. The master's night meal was small, like a bird's food. He would eat a couple of luchis, a little farina pudding, and some sweets. When I saw the small quantity of prasad, I was upset. I realized that I would have to fast that night. I was born young with a well-built body and a large appetite. That little bit of prasad was not enough for me. Knowing was in my mind, the master asked somebody to bring some chapatis, flattened bread, and vegetable curry for me from the Nahabad. Even that amount of food was not sufficient for me, but I ate it and lay down on the floor in the master's room. At midnight, I suddenly woke up and saw the master pacing back and forth in his room. Sometimes he would go to the front veranda muttering something, or he would chant the names of gods and goddesses while clapping his hands. During the day, the master talked and joked with the devotees, but now, at night, he was quite different. I was scared to death. I lay in bed quietly observing the master's madness. I could not get back to sleep. Sometimes the master sang and danced, and sometimes he talked with someone. At last the night passed, and I was relieved. In the morning, the master was normal again. When I returned home, my sister asked, "Where did you stay last night?" "At the temple garden in Dakshineshwar," I replied. Immediately she exclaimed, "Did you stay with that mad Brahmin of Dakshineshwar? Don't go to that man again. He was really mad. I go there very often to bathe in the Ganga. I have seen him, and I know about his madness." I listened to her words and smiled. Can you imagine doing this and going home and hearing how mad this person was, and all you're feeling is bliss when you're there? Sri Ramakrishna was very concerned about his disciples' welfare. If any one of them did not visit him for a while, he would ask someone about that person. Once, when Hari Prasanna did not come to Dakshineshwar for a long time, the master sent for him. When he arrived, the master asked why he had been absent for so long. Hari Prasanna replied truthfully, "Sir, I didn't feel like coming. Moreover, I try to meditate, but I find I cannot not." "What do you mean you cannot meditate?" exclaimed the master. After remaining silent for a few moments, he said, "Come near me." Hari Prasanna related what then transpired. As I approached the master, he asked me to stick out my tongue. When I did, he drew a figure on it with his finger. My whole body began to tremble, and I felt an unspeakable bliss within. Then the master said, "Go to the Panchavati and meditate there." Following his instructions, I slowly moved towards the Panchavati. I walked with difficulty, intoxicated with joy from the master's touch. Somehow I reached there and sat for meditation. Then I lost all outward consciousness. When I regained my ordinary state of mind, I saw the master seated by me. He was rubbing my body with his hands. His face shone with a heavenly smile. I was still in an intoxicated mood. He asked me, "Well, how was your meditation?" "It was very good, sir," I replied. Then the master said, "From now on, you will always have deep meditation." He further asked, "Did you have a vision?" I reported my experience to the master as faithfully as I could. Then I followed him to his room. I was alone with him. That day he talked to me for a long time and gave me many spiritual instructions. I was overwhelmed by the master's love and compassion for me. I had not realized before that he had so much feeling for me. Sri Ramakrishna's grace was boundless. On that day, the master said to me, Never get involved with women. Always be careful. Let there be no stain on your character. Never look at a woman even if she is made out of gold. Do you know why I'm saying all this to you? You belong to the Divine Mother, and you will have to do a lot of work for her. A pecked fruit cannot be offered to the Mother. So I tell you, be careful. Hari Prasanna later recalled various episodes pertaining to his association with Sri Ramakrishna. On one occasion, I was massaging the Master's feet when a gentleman from Kanagar came to visit him. After he left, the Master said, "You know, I can see the inside of a man's mind just as I can see the objects inside a glass case." I thought to myself, well, then he can also see everything in me. What a dangerous man he is. But the Master would only speak of the goodness in others, not of their evil deeds or tendencies. Once during my college days, when I went to visit the Master at Dakshineshwar, I asked him, "Is God with form or without form?" The Master replied, "God is with form as well as without form. And again, he is beyond both form and formlessness." Then I asked, "If God is all, is this cot also God?" He answered emphatically, "Yes, this cot is God, this glass, this utensil, this wall, everything is God." As he spoke, I experienced an inner transformation and was lifted beyond the realm of ordinary consciousness. My heart was illumined and I saw the light of Brahman everywhere. During my youth, I had read the philosophy of Kant, Hegel, and other great philosophers. One day I said to the Master, "Sir, what do you know about philosophy?" "Oh dear, have you read the works of Kant and Hegel?" He replied, "What are you saying? Throw away all those books. Knowledge of God is not in any book. Those books are all products of ignorance." What a great statement the Master made. Later, finding no way out, I gave up arguing. In the beginning, we need faith for God realization. Once at Dakshineshwar, that's really important. That statement right there. Yeah, he said, in the beginning we need faith for God realization. Swami Prabhupada always said it, at some point when you take up religion, you have to make that leap of faith that says, this is true. And you then realize the truth of it, but you have to make that leap of faith. You can't jump in doubting completely. Once at Dakshineshwar, the Master gave me an English book and asked me to read it and explain it to him. It was stated in the book, "Speak the truth. Do not covet what belongs to another. Control your senses." On hearing this, the Master felt elated like a little boy and expressed his great delight. The Master's joy even now is deeply impressed in my mind. I think that his expression of great delight was due to the fact that if a person attains perfection in these three disciplines, he is sure to reach God. Whenever he heard any discussion about God, he would go into ecstasy. When the Master was blessed for the first time with the vision of Divine Mother, he thought, "If this vision of mine is true, then let this big stone," which was in front of the Nahabat, "jump up thrice." Immediately, the stone did, in fact, jump thrice. Whatever he thought came to pass. Seeing this, the Master was fully convinced of the genuineness of his vision. Hari Prasanna was not able to spend a great deal of time with the Master, but the unbounded grace of his Guru filled his heart. Toward the end of Sri Ramakrishna's life, painting to his pointing to his own picture, he told Hari Prasanna, "Look, I will dwell in this picture. Meditate on me." "Yes, I will," said Hari Prasanna. That's why in all the shrines of all the anyone who has a picture of Sri Ramakrishna and is a devotee of his, that is not a picture, that is a living presence. And he said so himself, "I will dwell in this picture." In 1885, Hari Prasanna passed the first arts examination in the first division of St. Xavier's College. He then went to Bankipur in the state of Bihar and attended Patna College to study for a BA degree. Hari Prasanna later recalled, "The day the master passed away, 16 August 1886, I saw him standing in front of me. I wondered, how did the master come here? What is the cause of this vision?" The next day I read of the master's passing away in the Basumati newspaper. Naturally, Hari Prasanna grieved, but he remembered what the master had once said to him. "Do you know why I love you? You boys are my very own. The Divine Mother has asked me to love you." Hari Prasanna later remarked, "I cannot express how much love the master had for us. We don't have the capacity to love others. We became intoxicated seeing the master, and now people are intoxicated just by hearing his name. How blessed they are." And I think we'll stop there this evening. We will take up next week as a student and an engineer. Okay. Were there any questions about anything we read today? Okay. We have Saturday, we will have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna with Swami Chetanananda. Sunday the 19th, we will, at 11 o'clock, Pravrajika Vrajaprana will speak on the wisdom of the Divine Mother. Monday, October 20th, is Kali Puja in Hollywood. Everyone is welcome to come. It starts at 10 p.m. and usually goes the whole night. But you're welcome to go down to the Hollywood Temple. It's only celebrated in Hollywood, in Southern California. Wednesday, the 22nd at 5 p.m., we'll have this class, and we'll continue with Swami Vijnanananda. Saturday, the 25th at 5 p.m., here in the temple in Santa Barbara, we will have the gospel reading with Swami Chetanananda. It will also be the day of the immersion of the Kali image. We take the image out in Newport, I think. You must make a reservation with someone in Hollywood, but you'll have to check the Hollywood website to see who to call and make a reservation for the boat. A boat's rented and the image is put on the boat. We go out past the 3-mile limit, I believe, and singing bhajans almost the entire way, and then put the image in the ocean, and then come back and usually have a picnic on the beach with Swami Sarvadevananda and the other monastics. So if there are any questions about any of that scheduling, then, after the immersion, the 26th, we'll have Swami Mahayogananda lecturing, who has just come back from India, a trip to India. So that's what we have to look forward to at the end of this month. Any questions? Okay, good to see you all. Good to see you, Sarah. Yep. Okay, take care, stay healthy. I hope you all enjoyed the rain. We had planted on our Karma Yoga Day. We had worked like crazy. We had a wonderful Karma Yoga Day. And people came and we planted all this succulent and hauled mulch from across the street in time for the rain. All the succulents were lying there on the ground like little, And after the rain, I went out today. They're all standing at attention. It really works. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Once again, it's part of our Divine Mother worship. We had Durga Puja, now we have Kali Puja. So, no questions? Okay. Questions? No questions here? Okay. Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. And see you next week.